All right. Hey, good evening. As those of you those of you who are starting to trickle in here, this is the final chapter of, I guess, what we'd call season 2 of All the Right Movies, and gonna finish it in a big way. Obviously, if you didn't catch it last week, tonight we are doing Rocky, the original, the OG of sequel movies, I would say, because it came out several months before Star Wars and turned into, was it, I think 9 total movies. Well, 10 if you count there's 2 versions of Rocky 4. If you haven't seen the director's cut of Rocky 4, it's called, Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago, and it's just almost a completely different movie, just different tone, different everything. It's a really good movie, so I'd recommend watching that. But so if you count both the 2 different versions, there are 10, but there was Rockies 1 through 5. And then Rocky 5 never happened, by the way, so let's knock it back down to 9 or 8. But really, I don't think Rocky counts. I don't think he really ever acknowledged Rocky 5 again in any of the future movies. He didn't really have anything good to say about it, except he rushed it because he was contractually obligated to come up with another Rocky movie. And then you had Rocky Balboa, which was very good. Rocky Balboa was very good. And that happened in around 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And then we think we're done. And then, 2017, we get the Creed franchise, where I don't care what anybody says, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone got absolutely hosed out of a Best Supporting Actor Oscar. The rumor was that not the Screen Actors Guild, but, oh God, it's that other show, the one where I always forget what it's called, but it's the one where they always get them all super drunk, and so I think Stallone won Best Supporting Actor there, but said something not too politically correct. I can't even remember what it was, and apparently that was before they did the Oscar voting, and might have cost him. They think that might have cost him a few votes. I think Mark Rylance won for Bridge of Spies, and I was less than impressed there. So anyway, I got that out of the way. But anyway, few quick announcements as people get in here. It's like the movie show's going away, until next summer, but I'm not. Next week I start the same slot, 8 o'clock Central, Tuesday nights. We'll start football talk. I'll be doing the Husker Happy Hour again. I'll be trying to get Miley in here occasionally to give volleyball updates, since volleyball's starting to roll too, and so we'll have that going. Kind of a fun note for me anyway is tomorrow's another press conference day, but we've also been invited before that to like a taste testing or whatever, a tasting party, whatever they want to call it, for Aramark, who's I guess the new vendor for the stadium food. So I guess we get to sample a bunch of stadium food. Now some people be like, yeah, you enjoy that. And I think, my thing is, I will enjoy that because I think I could eat stadium food all day. I'm curious to see what they have that's different. And also, look for an article that popped today. It'll just say Nebraska survey. And the survey question this week I threw in there was, okay, beer's being served. How do you feel about it? Are you for it? Are you against it? And then just for fun, I threw in an option of, yeah, I like my beer, and I could also use some on-site bookmaking or whatever, like a little on-site book. That, hey, got a lot of games going. Do you want to be trying to, have your bookie hear you over the phone? Since I guess I'd say that's probably not happening. I'm just throwing that out there to see who would be interested in having it. But right now, I think we still can't gamble online in Nebraska, so. You got to get a VPN or drive to Iowa, I guess. But no, I threw that in there to see, hey, is there interest any in this little stadium area where you can go place some wagers. Anyway, so I imagine that'll run hot and cold. But anyway, yeah, go fill out the survey. Then generally I get the results back, and post them on Friday morning, or Friday sometime. Hopefully morning, usually more like midday. But anyway, so that's what's going on. Oh, and I'm telling you, I've had the worst luck. Like I pick the movies that I'm going to do, and then I try to see, all right, where are they streaming? And God, it feels like 3 or 4 were just, you got to go pay the $3.90, the $3.95 on Amazon or whatever. It doesn't break the bank, but I feel like I'm not alone. And it's like, hey, I'm already paying for the streaming now. I've got to pay for the movie too. And I know what Amazon's doing is they're just putting it out there so you got an option. It's them and Apple. So anyway, here's the luck now. Is last week Goon? I was like, Goon's been all over, and it wasn't. And 2 days later, it's on Tubi. It had been on Amazon before, till I think just a few weeks before, and then I'm flipping around on Tubi. Hey, and just added Goon, literally Thursday, literally 2 days after last week's pod. So I'm just throwing the pen in the air. I give up. But Rocky, if you haven't watched it, if you didn't watch it last week, but you want to, because maybe this brings up a little nostalgia, Rocky is playing on Amazon. It's just part of the regular subscription, no additional money. I noticed all the Rockies, somebody's been carrying them pretty steadily now for a while, and as they should. Why shouldn't Rocky just be available somewhere all the time, and the whole set? So anyway, that you can watch on Amazon. So Rocky, we've had the talk before about how up until Jaws, summer blockbusters weren't a thing. They didn't really premiere too many movies in the summer. The time to kick them out was in November. They thought that it was the Christmas crowd that really went to the movies. That was the case with Rocky. It was released on December 3rd, 1976, and I think they wanted to get it in. They definitely wanted to get it in because they're fighting technically on, I think, January 1st, 1976 in the movie, because Apollo has his whole entry as like George Washington and then Uncle Sam and all that. So they wanted that movie out before 76 was over, the big bicentennial year. So anyway, yeah, so that debuted, and we're going to talk a lot about the budget and the money and the script and all that. But the movie ended up making $225 million worldwide. $225 million worldwide. So, and then it won Best Picture. We'll talk more about the Oscar run because I don't have to do an Oscar reboot. Rocky was your first ever sports movie Oscar for Best Picture, and it got nominated for 8, won 3. But yeah, so it comes out December 3rd, and it's the rare, like, it's like Titanic basically. It won Best Picture and was the highest grossing film of the year. And what they did is, like, obviously it didn't take in $225 million in December. They did, they count the whole run, not just because I double checked to go, now wait a minute, is this just for 1977, or when the movie comes out, do they credit it for all the money it made in the run? And they do. So the top 5 that year, and this was wild. I think we talked about this when we did the Bad News Bears last summer, and that's that the number 2 movie in the country, like IMAX theaters had just started to pop out, and there was like just some like jet fighter type IMAX movie called To Fly, and it was second, and it made like 89 million total, something like that. And then third was King Kong, where I think, who was that? Would have been like Jessica Lange, Jeff Bridges, and then there was Midway was 4th. Now they came out with a new Midway a couple years ago. Was it around 22, 23, or was it a little older? But I liked it. It got slow in places. It wasn't a 4-star smash hit, but the air sea battles were just shot fantastically. Woody Harrelson played Admiral Nimitz. Dennis Quaid played Admiral Halsey. I think Ed Skeen maybe played the pilot, but they had Aaron Eckhart, I think, played Doolittle, the guy who led the bombing raid on Japan. Let's see, but it wasn't bad. So if you get a chance to watch that new Midway, it's been streaming somewhere for a while. Now that I said it, on this podcast, it's not going to be streaming. It's going to be $3.97 on Amazon. Suck it. And then fifth was Stars Born, Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand. And I was trying to think because I like to do, I kind of like to do a, Mount Rushmore if I can of actor. But Stallone's career has just been so long, encompassed so much. He's got an end to so much that it's kind of mind blowing. If we're being honest, it's mind blowing because along with his 9 to 10 Rockies, then came shortly after that, because I think that was 82, 81, 82. I think that was I was still in high school when First Blood came out, and then that spawned Second Blood. I'm sorry, First Blood Part 2, Rambo 2, First Blood. It was like First Blood Part 2, Rambo, or Rambo 2, First Blood Part 2. I don't know. I think they tried to drag First Blood into it. Then you just had flat out Rambo 3, where we basically, totally taught the U.S. created the Taliban and taught Osama bin Laden how to run a guerrilla war. Rambo 3 hasn't aged real well with our heroes, the Afghans. And then you had just one called, I think, just Rambo, and that one was shockingly good. I think he's chilling out in Burma, and there's this warlord up the river, and then some peaceniks come in and want to try and help the locals, and naturally all hell breaks loose, and then Rambo gets a hold of the just meanest machine gun ever invented. It was the biggest meat salad I ever saw in a rice patty, and he's fighting like an army by himself, and like guys are just like blowing in half. And if you like watching the meat and the red paint fly on screen, that Rambo's for you. And then they had one seriously called Last Blood. It had all the Rambo stuff, but God, it just had the worst ending too. I mean, here's this girl. I think it's oh God, he has like a one. He's just this one. He's just hanging in Texas, working his ranch, and he's got a Hispanic, and I think she's just kind of keeps the run of the place. I haven't watched it over and over, but then her daughter goes missing and gets snapped up, I think, by basically human traffickers. So he goes to Mexico to rescue her. Gets the old ass Rambo. Gets the hell kicked out of him, but naturally they don't finish him off, and then he just does Rambo things, and then here the meat's flying again, and then he rescues her, and then she just dies in the car, and I'm like, I didn't come last Rambo. I don't want like a serious sad ending here. Come on, man. Give her back to her mom. That was just brutal for just a Rambo movie to just hose you at the end. All the other movies, I think, ended at least mostly happy. Like they won, he got guys out, et cetera, et cetera. That just wasn't the way for Rambo to go out. Maybe he's got one more in him if he looks back on that. But anyway, I was going, yeah. So you got the 9-10 Rockies, the 5 Rambos, and then the other 2 I threw in there. And it looks like he and James Gunn must have hit it off pretty well, because he's in the Marvel universe as the leader of the Ravagers, where he showed up in, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3. And then I don't think he's coming back. I think something very heavy fell on him and squashed him, but he was in the Suicide Squad as King Shark. He was just this big man shark thing that was kind of dopey and would just eat people, but was running around on the land, and it was humorous, because when I'm hearing that voice, it took me a little bit to go, who is that? Because I didn't really check. There were so many people in the cast, his name slid by, or maybe they didn't put it in there at the beginning. But yeah, he's King Shark, where he's just voicing this shark that's running around with Idris Elba and John Cena, and oh God, and Rick Flag Jr. and then they had Rick Flag Sr. and Superman. So he's also from the guy that plays Rick Flag Sr. Rick Flag Sr. He was in Warrior. He played like the head of the strike force that turned out to be a Hydra guy, running with Captain America, and then now he's in Superman and he's Rick Flag Sr., so you got to imagine he's going to be coming after John Cena, the Peacemaker, for killing Rick Flag Jr. But anyway, this isn't Marvel DC night, but it's kind of wild that Stallone ended up in both of those. So what kind of reviews did the show that won Best Picture get? Roger Ebert, 4 stars. I got to reading his and I forgot to grab the Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure Rotten Tomatoes is awesome, but he had this opening line for the review where he goes, "She sits tearful and crumpled in a corner of her little bedroom. Her brother has torn apart the living room with a baseball bat. Rocky, the guy she's in love with, comes over to her and says, you want a roommate?" And it's just the perfect line delivered in the perfect way, and a fantastic performance. I think that might have been his last Oscar nomination until he got nominated again as Rocky in Creed 1. But yeah, he goes, here's the thing. It isn't about the story. It's not. He goes, this is a rags to riches. This is a story you've seen before. The underdog gets his shot. But he goes, it's not about a story. It's about a hero, and it's played by an actor who nails the role. And because it really is. It's just how Rocky plays the role, and it'll become more apparent when we run through the scenes. They do a really good job of setting up what Rocky's life is, and watching it now just makes it seem so much worse. And it was one of the things, I'll just do this right now, it was one of the things I wanted to say. It was, dang Rocky, man. The cities, like the city of Philadelphia, it's filthy. You're just seeing the filthiest of Philadelphia. And I was thinking to myself, that was cities and movies in like the 70s through a chunk of the 80s. I kind of want to say the one that might have turned it around, and it was in 86 or 87, was Adventures in Babysitting, because they still showed you like the seedy end of the Chicago area, but then they're also showing you the lights and the beauty of the brown town. But like, oh God, the French Connection, that's just the gritty, nasty side of New York. Prince of the City is about dirty New York cops, and that and you're just seeing them dealing with junkies and the crappy alleys and the garbage is on the curb. And the Philadelphia you see here is even, I think the closest it gets to looking nice is the art museum, but mostly what you're looking at is just kind of the gritty side of the city that people probably don't walk too comfortably in. And later on, downtown started looking a lot better, and I just wondered if that was a case of cities not being so quick to, you want to make a movie here, huh? Why don't but just shoot this part, and they make it look really clean and sweet and nice, and that's kind of, I don't think get as much of it. Like even To Live and Die in LA was in the the nastier parts of Los Angeles, and it just feels like the last 20 years or so the cities are just a lot prettier. So just a thought where I started thinking about that when I was giving Rocky the rewatch treatment. So yeah, first let's go with the plot. And you're probably going to be a little surprised here. Just because I always like this kind of plot, I'm going to bump it up a star. But the plot I give the Polini. Gets the Polini 3 stars. It's a winner, but it's not the driving force of the movie. We've seen it before. We've kind of seen that thing before, but they do it so well that I think everybody everybody says this is a Rocky movie. This is such and such, but that. Like Warrior is one of my favorite. It's literally a top 5 sports movie out of the 50 I've kind of chosen. And Warrior. Oh God, what? I don't want to get this wrong, but what do I want to say? Warrior was called Rocky, but MMA, and then the Karate Kid. Well, Rocky, but kids doing karate, and then just every sports movie since then that's somebody out of nowhere. It's become the Rocky of this, the Rocky of that, and so that means for me that means he did it pretty damn well. Everything. Look at that! Like this is in sports. How often it's like we're watching a real life Rocky right now. Say like when Butler was playing Duke in 2 straight finals, and and I guess Butler, like Rocky, lost. But anyway, let's check. There's a comment here. Yep. Oh, there we go. Tiger Shark Diver starts us off good with Yo Adrian. Yo Adrian, damn right, Yo Adrian. Yeah, this was I don't know. I'm still kind of blown away because I've not watched. I think the last time I watched Rocky 1 was when the kids were a little younger, and then we ended up, I think, over the course of like 2 weekends there with me, uh, we went like we did Rockies like 1 through 4, skipped Rocky 5, and watched Rocky Balboa, and they enjoyed the hell out of it. Probably should have pestered Miley to join me, but I don't know if she could. I don't know if she could handle 2 hours of Rocky. We'll see if we can keep it under that. We've run long. We've run long a little the last couple of weeks. But hey, keep the comments coming. If you've never really been with us, jump right in and at least give us a go big red. We'd love to hear from people. So let's go ahead and what should we do first? You know what I'd kind of like to do first is let's go over some of the casting, because there's some, and I don't want to forget that. Sometimes I do, because we've had a run where there hadn't been too many, casting stories. Well, and I can throw in, I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the script, and what was neat beyond what I could find in my normal places to go search for movie trivia is when Rocky IV, Rocky versus Drago, when it came out, they just did a one-night only thing. I went out to the 20 grand or whatever, and it was just a one-shot deal, 7 o'clock, and it was preceded by this like 15 or 20-minute live interview with Stallone at the screening in Philadelphia, like up on the stage. They'd have a little stage where the screen was, and actually did an interview where he talked some about Rocky IV, but talked a lot about the original Rockies, and some of it was I just got there. Some of it did manage to crisscross with stuff I found. But here was the deal: is Irving Winkler and Robert Chartoff were the two producers, and he had tried out, auditioned for a role for a different movie they were doing, and he didn't get it, but got to talking with them and told him he had this idea for a script, and told him basically the Rocky story that was sitting in his head, and they pretty much told him, this sounds like that's something we'd really be interested in. Go write this thing, get it back to us, and let's talk. And so he brought it back to them, and they offered him, this is like 1974, 5, 74 maybe, because the movie doesn't come out till 76. Offered him and he's broke at this time too, and they offered him $360,000, which even then was considered an unprecedented, like staggering offer for a script. And so, like in the dollars that it would have been in, like the few years ago when the Rocky IV came out, I think was $1,650,000 would have been the offer in today's dollars. So, a lot for a script in the 70s. But part of their deal was, we're just buying the script, but we want to get a big name movie star. And those stars considered were Robert Redford, Ryan O'Neal. God, like seriously, Ryan O'Neal. Like Rocky's not a pretty boy, guys. Come on. Burt Reynolds, mid-70s Burt Reynolds, James Caan, and then the intriguing one, and I know we're biased, but Omaha's own Nick Nolte was one of the ones considered. And I will tell you this, usually I hear the other people they're considering for roles, and I'm just like, wrong. Okay, it might be good, but it's a different movie. I could see Nolte pulling off the Rocky role. I mean, he was the right age, had kind of the right body. I'm sure he could have learned to box. That Nick Nolte as Rocky intrigues me. And yeah. And anyway, then you had, for Adrian, you had a wild one. Now they had here, Talia Shire was actually a last minute grab. They had a couple of those. And the ones they were considering were Bette Midler, Cher, Susan Sarandon. She was turned down for being too cute, too beautiful for the role. And then it finally went to Carrie Snodgrass, who definitely wouldn't, she would have checked their boxes not being too attractive. Fantastic actress. But then she backs out, and they grab Talia Shire. I think it's fresh off The Godfather, or off The Godfather, like 1 and 2. So they get Talia Shire, and then Paulie, they originally wanted Harvey Keitel, and now, but then Burt Young gets it. And could anybody be more perfect than Burt Young for that role? I can't even imagine anybody but Burt Young playing Paulie. And then once again, though, I think they were going after Keitel, and then last minute, let's grab Burt Young. Okay, it's like, and then Apollo Creed, he was a late hire, and he was very interested in the script. He was really reluctant to take the role because he didn't know who the hell Stallone was. and that'll play into another little story where, you know, like, he has no idea who Sylvester Stallone is. And then Mickey, other actors, I guess, they, like Burgess Meredith was another one that they took at the end at the end of the hunt. And other actors, I guess, that Stallone asked the role were insulted. That I don't know if they were just like bigger names and didn't know what they just didn't want to star under this. Who the hell is this Stallone guy? But they said other actors were insulted that they were offered that role, and they might have felt different after Oscar season rolled around. And also they asked Lee Strasberg, who I think was famous for coaching actors as well, but he was too expensive. Their budget was not high for Rocky. Yeah, and I saved that from, I usually give that out at the beginning, but that falls into where I'm about to go here. So Lee Strasberg won't do it for the amount of money they're willing to pay him. So here, now you got the Penguin, and the Penguin has aged considerably since Batman, and it's Mickey. So here's the thing: the budget was going to be, he ended up Stallone took less for the script, I'm guessing about half of what they offered him originally, by insisting he's starring in it or he's not selling it. I mean, and this guy's living out of his car at this time. This is the nutty part. I'll tell one of these stories right away. Remember Butkus, you know, his doggy friend at the pet store, and Adrian buys the dog for him. Well, that was his actual dog, and he got to be so broke that he was just basically, he and the dog were living in the car, and he said it was getting to the point where he couldn't afford to feed them both. So he had to find somebody else to take the dog, or one of them was going to eat the other, and he thought the dog would win. So he found a family to take Butkus, and then when he ended up, you know, getting his deal, selling the script, selling the script, getting the money, gets to star in it. The family gave Butkus back to him, and then he put Butkus in the movie. And Butkus is just the sweetest, biggest boy in the movie, just jumping around, howling, and I'll wait till the scene because I'm going to tell you. It's just, but Rocky does exactly with dogs what I do with dogs. So anyway, so they were going to do a $2 million budget, and I think they were going to reserve $1 million of it for Burt Reynolds or somebody like that. And when Stallone or Chartoff and the other producer went back and said, well, we reached a deal, but he's got a star. They said, well, then your budget's just been cut in half to $1 million. And they came in under budget according to the research here. They did it for $960,000, and it made $225 million. You know, holy crap! One of these times, I have got to find somewhere where it tells me, did Stallone take a flat fee or did he take a percentage? Because, man, sometimes they just take that flat fee thinking the movie's not going to do much. I'm guessing he probably went in if he was going all in on himself, I'm suspecting he went the full 9 yards and took a percentage of the gate. But who knows? We'll let that be a surprise. I'm not kidding. When we go through, I've got about the same amount of trivia, little fun facts that I always get. And I had to stop at about half. You know, there might be a second. There might be a second All the Right Movies of Rocky, where we talk about stuff, I figure we left out tonight because there's just so much there, and then can do completely new trivia. So anyway, let's see. Oh, what do we have here? I think we just have Renee Walters saying hi, looks like from Facebook. Renee, glad to see you. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying this, and glad to have you aboard. So let's go ahead and start down the scenes. And guys, just comment anytime. Last week the comments were flying hot and heavy, and God knows we like him. I got to believe there's some other people out there that have their Rocky memories. Well, anyway, we get to the movie, get the movie started. Let me throw these aside. And what we have is first scene, opening fight. And right away, I am just disgusted. I mean, here's the fight, first of all. And you have him fighting Spider Rico. And the guy that plays Spider Rico, I know his name because when Rocky Balboa came out, Spider Rico's and Rocky Balboa, same actor. His name's Pedro Lovell, and if you go to his IMDb, his only 2 credits, spanning like 1976, one in 76 and one in 2006, 30 years later, is the two times he played Spider Rico. And Spider Rico's not a nice guy. He just jumps up, headbutts Rocky, in the middle of the round, and it's just in this dingy gym, and it's the 70s. So I mean, there's as much smoke indoors as you can fit into a place. So right away, it's like I watched it, then, and I was like, ooh, okay, I like live boxing, but I don't know if I'm going there. That's a little strong. And then he headbutts Rocky right over the eye, and Rocky just gets pissed and like basically grabs him by the throat, I think, at one point, and then just just doing the holding and hitting, and just bashes him to the ground, and then gets on one knee and starts punching him while he's laying there on the ground. So yeah, it looks like a nice little small auditorium. The guy calling it out probably owns it and looks exactly like you think a guy like that would look, with a cheap suit and a gravelly voice. And so Rocky wins, and then it's just another level of, as he comes walking out, and here's just this, sad sack sitting there watching the fight, burning one, and Rocky goes, "Hey man, got a smoke?" And the guy's like, "Hey, take this one," and gives him the like half-smoked cigarette he's been smoking, and Rocky just starts smoking it. It's just like, okay, you've made your point there. Different time, different place, and what the hell? Brockmire is officially disturbed, as Jim Brockmire said in Brockmire. So anyway, you see the Sig, and then as he's walking out, and you get a lot of this early on, and they do just a great job of him reacting, but not overreacting to some of the stuff that's being yelled at him. You hear just this one, trash woman just scream, "You're a bum, Rock!" And you see him just kind of made, little slight head turn. He's obviously been doing this for so long. I think he has like 60 something fights at the point of his life we walk into. So he's heard it all, but still, you don't like being called. And bum is like the biggest insult they have for people in this movie. Bum is shithead, everything you hear today, but it's worse. That's a bum. You're a lousy bum. And so then the payoff, which I remember in '77 when I was happy if I ever had more than a $5 bill in my pocket. I'm going, this is all they make, and then you get a little look at the bigger fight game, just in smaller denominations, about where where those fighters' purses go. So he goes to Spider. You got loser purse, $40, and then starts going towel locker -5 for towel locker, minus such and such for him, minus such and such for cornerman. Year total is $17.20, and then hits Rocky with the winner's cut, $65, missing this. It's pretty much the same amounts, I think. And then he goes, "Yeah, Rock, so your cut's $40.55." And yet they're somehow not quite the exact amounts. And I remember even thinking, going, well, one of them's getting screwed here, because they're for the same exact things coming out of the purse, somebody got charged slightly more than the other guy. So it was like, yep, that. But then you learn about guys like Don King in the boxing game, and you realize that it's just a dirty, dirty, dirty business. So anyway, then you have like Rocky walking back through the city. It's night. He walks by the Frank Stallone with the drunk trash can singer singing, "Take me back, do 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 do, take me back." And it sounds good. I think that's a little bit of the fantasy there. I don't know that trash can singers on some of Philly's worst streets are going to be singing in perfect harmony together, but it does sound good. What a nice brother, always kind of finding these roles for Frank. Good guy. Either that or Jesus, why didn't you give him a ton of money? So who knows? Anyway, so he's walking back. Then he comes back to the apartment where you meet Moby Dick the goldfish and everyone's favorite turtles of all time, Cuff and Link. And you're just seeing what, like, it's just a one room, kind of scummy apartment. I think it's got the flip down bed, the nasty little bathroom. At one point, they were talking about, and we'll hear this part of it, is they were talking about the scene where Mickey comes over to be his trainer and Rocky just shuts him down hard, yelling at him. But they rented just like an actual crap apartment. This is like the real thing. And he goes, it wasn't too tough to get mad for that scene, man, because that bathroom stunk. And so, hey, whatever helps your art and craft along. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tiger Shark throws in here. I'll pop that one right up. This Don King killed a guy too. Yeah, he hit the managing game as a previously convicted murderer. Great guy. What wonderful choices. Yeah, he robbed Mike Tyson blind. Got Mike Tyson, convinced Mike Tyson, the two old guys taking care of his career who Duck Customato set him up with, convinced him those guys were stealing it from him. And then he should hire Don, hires Don, and Don proceeded I think any money he had left, it was gone when he got out of jail. And one of the things, Don King had a daughter who he was paying $150,000 a year to be the president of the Mike Tyson fan club, which never created or sold any merchandise, never put out any newsletters. Literally, there was nothing to prove the existence of the Mike Tyson fan club except that's who she was getting the check from. As he started a Mike Tyson fan club, made her president, and then just started giving away $150,000 of Mike's money every year. So yeah, great guy. Okay, so anyway, so you got a feel for just they're setting up the seedy atmosphere. Great. You can see people are like generally that people think Rocky's a nice guy. You're kind of getting that apart from the mean shit. Is that when he goes by the trash can seniors, they're all hey Rock, they're all happy to see Rocky. So they've done that, and then the next day, like, his favorite thing to do is, and you can even see him preparing his jokes the night before in that scene, your first scene in his apartment, because you see him with the pet food going, let's see, not enough flies, more moths than flies, and he's trying to, and then he goes in, and he's flirting with Adrian. The pet store, you can tell the pet store owner doesn't really have the guts to go kicking Rock out of the store, but Rock's presence does not make her happy at all. She does not like the Rocky. You can tell it's just like, oh my God, Rocky, buy something. And so, but the first thing Rocky does is he rolls in there and goes right. And Buck is here's this huge dog and way too small of a kennel, but he's over there. He's playing with the dog and got it barking. And brother, that's what I do. It's like somebody did a thing on TikTok, and it showed just like a kid like jumping up and down and swatting at a pillow, and they said something like me with dogs, me anytime I go to my friend's house and their dog's loose, and yeah, I'm a king of hey, stop riling up the dog. I'm like, oh, he'll be fine at the end, but come on, let's play. So yeah, Rocky's a dog riler. Let's just let you know that much. That's how much even more proof it is that he's just a genuinely nice guy at heart, because you got to rile up the dogs. Okay, so we meet Buckus. He tells his joke where he goes, hey, this turtle food you got me had more moths and flies, and what happens is the moths get stuck in the turtle's throat, and then he gets what? And then the pet owner's like, starting with the bad jokes early, huh, Rock? She's like, shut up. And he goes, what is it? Shell shocked. They get shell shocked. It's even worse than you thought was coming. And so yeah, so Rocky, and then but Adrian laughs, and you can tell right away what an introvert she is. I imagine working behind the counter at a pet store was just kind of a hell on earth job for having to deal with the public and talk to people. And that was there's some things now I see and I think that that wouldn't have occurred to 13-year-old me who was just having the time of his life in the theater. So then now it's time to go meet Mickey, and that doesn't go well. So anyway, Mickey, he goes in his locker. He can't get into his locker. He's mad. He has because he's Rocky. He has the combination like up under his hat. So he pulls the combination out. No, it's the right combination. Grabs a fire extinguisher, smashes the lock off, and here's all these pictures of hot black girls and just stuff everywhere. And so that's not his locker. And Mike, the little the guy who sweeps around the gym, and he's in the corner during the big fight. And Mike tells him, I love what they called it. You just see these dirty, like almost like dirty army laundry bags, and there's like 5 of them hanging off hooks. And he's like, "Where's my stuff, Mike?" He goes, "Mickey told me to bag it, put it on Skid Row." They call that Skid Row, which is just generally a really crappy street where all the bums live, pretty much. And so Skid Row's an insult. Goes out asking Mickey, where, what the hell, and he's like, because Dipper needed it, and here's this, big black dude in the ring going at it, and he's like, Dipper needed it, and he's like, Dipper's a contender, he's a climber, you're a tomato. So he's been called a bum, he's been called a tomato, and Mickey just lets him have it, and then Dipper, says, he goes, you got heart, and he has the line, you got heart, but you fight like a goddamned ape. So now ape, tomato, bum. And then as he's walking off, you hear, yay, and Dipper, yo, I dig your locker, man. It's like, jeez. So Rocky's having a bad day, and he won the night before. And so then he heads to the bar where you get to meet Paulie. What a great way into Paulie. He's trying to brush or comb his few strands of hair, and here you can see the space in this lousy, filthy bar bathroom where the mirror was, and there's a little shard of it, and he's I'll break the bums, I'll break their legs if I find the bum that broke the mirror. And so he's just making all these threats to whoever broke the mirror. I get the feeling the mirrors don't survive long in the Philly bars we're seeing it there in South Philly at the time. So you meet Paulie, and he's just a complainer. And then you see Apollo on TV, and he's Apollo's formed after Muhammad Ali, and he's sitting there, saying, "Hey, don't do something. Drugs will make you stink. What does it say? Don't eat something or don't do something. It'll make you stink and smell. Be a thinker, not a stinker," like that one. And the bartender's insulting him. I don't like him. And Rock's like, "What's not to like, man? He took his shot and became heavyweight champ. What shot did you ever take?" And the bartender goes, "Hey, Rock, you're not happy with your life? That's nice, but here, I got a business to run." And then Rocky's still mad, so he does the old, "Want me to take a shot? I'll take a stinking shot." And so, good news there. Got Paulie, got a dirty bar. We're on fire here, and let's see. And then he leaves the bar, and he's walking by the famous Atomic Hoagie shop. And there we have our walk, for those of you that remember, with little Marie. She's 13. She's up there cussing up a storm, smoking, and doesn't look like much. And so Rocky's like, "Come on, you shouldn't be out late hanging out with bums like this," and takes her home and starts giving her life advice, which is kind of coming down to, if you act like this and talk like this and you talk, makes you sound like a whore. And if you do this, then they'll start thinking you are, and that's how they're going to treat you. And it's like, and I remember one time he goes like, if you talk to nice people, you get nice friends. If you talk to bum people, you get bum friends. He's not wrong. And she comes up and he goes, "Well, somebody tell you one last thing." She goes, "Well, what you're going to tell me is if I keep acting like a whore, I'm going to become one. Don't keep acting like a whore, or I'll become one." He's like, "Yeah, something like that." And even she's kind of nice saying goodbye. For a sec, she's like, "All right, good night, Rock. See ya." And then goes up to the door and does the, "Hey, Rock." And he's like, "What?" And she gives him this one and goes, "Screw you, creepo." And she goes in, and now you can add creepo to the pile of words. And you hear him mumbling to himself, "Yeah, creepo, who the hell are you to be giving advice?" And you can just see this stuff kind of, he tries to be a nice guy. And this stuff, it gets to him, and it's not done. So you got the "screw you, creepo." Interesting thing I caught on that I only learned today is originally that was going to be "fuck you, creepo," but they were told if they had the one "fuck" in there, it was going to go from PG to R, because we're not at PG-13 quite yet. So yeah, he was told it would go from PG to R. They were getting more lax in the around 1980 or 81, whenever Airplane came out, because I showed that to my kids, having complete, and I didn't care. I'd rather, it's the classic. I'd rather have them see boobs instead of like somebody getting torn apart by machine gun fire who's not older. And yeah, so yeah, they had to take the fuck you out to keep it PG. Good decision. I don't think it's shooting to 225 million as a rated R movie, because a lot of guys under 17 went back and saw that again if they could. So we've met Apollo, we've met Little Marie. Rock is at this point at rock bottom, and now we get to meet Miles. I can't remember the last name, but the promoter Miles, the guy with the slick back hair, just the real, just kind of greasy scammer, nice suit, like absolutely looks like the part of a boxing promoter. And they're pissed because the guy Apollo was going to fight on New Year's Day is out and injured, and there's no other contender that's available. There's 5 weeks to the fight. Every one of them, if they're not already committed elsewhere, they're saying 5 weeks isn't enough time to train for a guy who I think his record at the time is supposed to be something like 42-0 and with 38 knockouts or something like that. So no, they don't want to go in on a sped up training deal. So he presents the idea, and this will be our first one. This should be ready to go if I've got this in the right spot, and I hope I do. Let's just see. This is what they're talking about in Miles Juergens. That's what it was, Juergens. And let's see what we got here.
Promoted fights in every goddamn country in the world, and I'm broken my ass over this. But I don't know what the hell else to do. I do. Without a ranked contender, what this fight is going to need is a novelty. This is the land of opportunity, right? So Apollo Creed on January 1st gives a local underdog fighter an opportunity. A Snow White underdog, and I'm going to put his face on this poster with me. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm sentimental. And a lot of other people in this country are just as sentimental, and there's nothing they'd like better than to see Apollo Creed give a local Philadelphia boy a shot at the greatest title in the world on this country's biggest birthday. Now that's the way I see it. And that's the way it's going to be. Apollo, I like it. It's very American. Now, it's very smart.
Fantastic scene. And let's have a quick Apollo talk, because they said based on Muhammad Ali, and one of the things that's kind of in the underbelly of the Rocky thing is it's the whole white guy gets to be the hero in boxing, and at the heavyweight levels that really didn't start happening until we got people from other countries involved. And so, but they don't make him like what a lot of black people were being portrayed as in some of these 70s movies, just a dopey, cussing, menacing guy. No, he is a good-looking, well-dressed dude, and this gives you the first shot that he is very involved in the planning of his fights. He is very involved. Later on, you have him to the point where he is like talking about who to make radio deals with in Canada, and he is just in the thick of it. This is a businessman, and that's what made that character very, very different. Now he plays all the Ali stuff. It even does a little rhyming and everything. He's absolutely supposed to be Ali, but this guy is much, much more involved than, say, Ali was. Ali, I don't think really had that great of a handle on his own career. I think he just did a decent job of having people kind of look after him, because I think he had King promoting him. Because, well, here's what King did, and they did show this in Rocky V, but what he did was, once he got champs, basically to get a fight with his champ, then you had to turn over, like, if your guy wins, then contractually you have to turn over promotion of like your next 5 fights to Don King. So once he got a champ, the only way to get the shot at him was to agree to let him be your promoter, and there wasn't really much they could do to stop it. So anyway, there's where we are. We've got the plan. We're ready to roll. And let's see. And then you also meet, and we'll talk more about him at different Rockies. Is Tony Burton as Duke, Apollo's trainer, who just turns out to be the guy that gives the best inspirational speeches. He gives like a killer in Rocky IV, another killer in Rocky Balboa, and even in this one, he's coming up with great advice. Like they have the part where Rock is is working the hanging sides of beef, and he sees that and he's going like, Jesus Christ. And that's where Apollo's like, he's neck deep in deals and radio stations, and he says, hey champ, hey, you might want to come on over here and take a look at this boy you're fighting. He looks like he means business. And without even looking up, Apollo's like, yeah, I mean business too. Anyway, and you see Burton kind of turn around and go like, okay. And he's starting to have some second thoughts about this Rocky thing. But nope, too busy making deals. But Tony Burton, fantastic role. So then let's see. So we met them, and then let's see. Okay. I forgot to say the day after he goes to the pet store. I skipped over something. That's where you meet Gazzo, the loan shark, that he breaks thumbs and breaks legs. He's 2-bit leg breaker, I think Mickey calls him at some point. So and Gazzo has this driver named Buddy that just rides Rock like nobody's business. So here he asks him, Gazzo likes Rocky, so he's going, hey, I heard you fought last night. How'd you do? He goes, I won. I did real good, and then Buddy go, hey, did you get the license plate? And he goes, what license plate? He goes, the truck that ran over your fucking face, or something like that. Would fucking, but the truck that ran over your face. And Rock's like, what's your problem? He's like, what the hell are you giving me shit for? And then talks to Gazzo, gets out, and then as he's getting ready to walk away, Buddy leans over and goes, so long, meatball. So, another insult added to the pile. Now he's set up where he's gonna go over to Adrian's, I think, for Thanksgiving. And so they're going to go out, and Gazzo is dropping him off, he's like, here's $50. And Buddy just decides to start insulting her because, Gazzo's heard about the date. And how do you know? He's like, I hear things. And Buddy goes like, I heard she's retarded. And Rock's like, no, she's just shy. And he's like, you should take her to the zoo. He's like, why is that? I hear retards like the zoo. It's like, Jesus Christ, is Rocky going to get this guy out of the car or what? And then, just for they're reaching over about to strangle each other in front of Gazzo, and he's, knock it off, you two are killing me here. So he gives Rocky $50 to go on a date. Hey, that's some big money in 1976. That's a nice night on the town. So he gives him the money, and then here's Buddy again. Hey, remember what I tell me? And Rock's just, what'd you tell me? And he goes, take her to the zoo. And then, it's just like, oh man, poor Rocky. See, and you also find out at this point that Rocky's not very good at collecting. I think a lot of it, he does all right because people are just going to be afraid of him in general for walking up on him, local boxer. But he has this guy where he's been told he hasn't paid, break his right thumb. And so Rocky is like, I think the guy gives him some money. It's not near enough. And then tells him he'll put a cast on it and make it look like it was broken and all this. And so Rocky lets him go, threatens him a bunch, but doesn't hurt him. And then Gazzo's picked him up and is reading him the riot act for not breaking the thumbs. And Rocky's like, well, see, I was thinking, if he breaks his thumb, he works on the loading dock, then he can't go to work, so he can't make money. And the Gazzo's like, no, Rocky, please let me do the thinking. You just do what I told you. And, so poor Rocky. So he gets his, not yet girlfriend, but his date's been insulted by the guy he can't stand. And let's see, then he goes over for Thanksgiving, and you get to see that I listed all of Paulie's many faults when I reviewed the newer Rocky IV. And the first one was domestic abuse. And he lives with Adrian's Paulie's sister. He lives with her. He treats her like hot garbage. And so they get in a big fight, and she's making the Thanksgiving turkey, and it's going to be a nice dinner. And Paulie blows up, and he tells her to go out. That's what it is. Go out with Rocky. Apparently didn't share with her that he'd set Rocky up with her. So she's like, "But there's a turkey in the oven." So he takes the turkey, rips off one of the drumsticks for himself, and throws the thing out the door into the alley. It just goes, "You want the bird? Go in the alley and eat the bird." Then takes a bite out of the drumstick, holds it to Rocky, and goes, "Hey, Rock, want some?" I'd almost rather smoke the fucking guy's cigarette from the first scene. And then she just, "Oh, Paulie," just locks herself in a room, and Rocky comes and actually sweet talks her. And here's Paulie, like, go, work her, and gets her to go out. And then they do the trip to the skating rink. Fun thing I learned about the skating rink, that's the one where I think the guy probably takes most of Rocky's $50 to just let him skate for 10 minutes or something like that, or maybe less than that. I can't remember. What originally was supposed to be was just a full night of people figure skating, and they were going to have 300 extras, but they didn't have the budget for 300 extras. And literally, Rod said Stallone got there to shoot, figuring, well, they'll get what they can. And there was one extra there, and he literally wrote that scene on the spot, like the whole thing. Okay, well then this guy's going to shake him down for money. He was always yelling 5 minutes, 4 minutes, every minute, like yelling how long they had left. Super annoying. And then he's telling him his story, which I guess he just wrote that scene, improvised that, and nice work, good scene. I colored myself impressed there. So, and then he takes her home. And if you haven't watched it in years and you go back and watch it, I will tell you that Rocky the seducer is a little on the aggressive side, especially when he's got her not he doesn't have her pinned to the wall by her shoulders, but he's got her backed up. He's stripped down to where he's wearing his little wife beater, tank top t-shirt, just stretched tight on him, and has both hands against the wall, just kind of preventing movement. Not the best look. God, what would that be? 50 years later here, almost. Not the best look. So anyway, but it pulls it off. It's still sweet, and he's in love with her. Just might have wanted to reshoot that. Of course, maybe it's been a while for The Rock and a little out of control. Who knows? No, I don't think any laws were broken. If you watch it again, you'll see what I mean. That it's like a little. Might want to give her a little space there, Rocky. So anyway, things are turning up. Okay. All you've watched for about half the movie now is Rocky getting shit on and called names, and even though you do get the feeling that people probably do like him. So all that's left is for the boys to have a little talk, and they're going through. By the boys, I mean Miles and Apollo and Duke and that crowd, and they're going through their books and coming up with some kind of wild boxer names, Joe Zack, Ernie Roman, all these guys, and they're like, no, doesn't sound good, and then you just see Apollo go, here, this is what I want, and this guy right here, and they've got just some, I guess I had no problem believing that in Philadelphia, every so often they just make a big fucking giant hardcover book with every boxer's record or whatever. I mean, probably nationally, everybody's professional record they can get their hands on. And Apollo's like, that's my guy, and shoves the book over. He goes, Rocky Balboa, I never heard of him. And he's like, that doesn't matter, man. Look at that name, the Italian Stallion. It's like, he goes, I am going to put his name on the poster next to mine, and we are doing this. And he just finishes off by going, he goes, Apollo Creed versus the Italian Stallion. Sounds like a damn monster movie. And it does. It sounds like a... But Apollo, genius promoter. He didn't care. He knows whatever bum they pull out of a gym in Philly, he's going to work over. Somebody's getting beat up, but he was just looking. He's like, got to be white, and the name's got to be interesting. And Rocky Balboa, the Italian Stallion. So now we got the fight set, and Ricky. This is what happens when I'm thinking about Rocky and Mickey. I say Ricky. So no, it wasn't Ricky. But what we have is, let's Let's see here. Let me move her up a little, and we have Rocky wanting Mickey to actually tell him why he doesn't like him so much and what his problem is with him and why his bag was on Skid Row, etc. So, and I remember, and Mickey even warns him. It's like, Mickey's in his usual foul mood and tries to warn him. He's like, "I want you to tell me." And he goes, "You don't want to know." And, "I want to know." So here you go. Everyone stops. You went in time to become a good fighter. Instead, you became a lane breaker. Some cheap Saturday old shot. So live it. It's a waste of life. And you can just hear a pin drop in there, and they all kind of start back up. Yeah, it's like, Mickey, you don't want to know. I want to know. You want to know? I want to know now. Yeah, that scene gets me every time, and especially with what's going to be coming up before long, because Rocky goes down there, gets the fight, and he doesn't want it. He's sitting there like, man, he comes in too. It's like no idea, not even the slightest clue that he's about to be offered a fight with the champ. And holy cow, man, he gets offered it. He's like, no, I'll get embarrassed. And Juergens talks him into it. And then what quickly followed, now here's Rocky hanging out with Adrian and Paulie, and they're doing a joint press conference. And I don't think there's anything too horrible here, but Apollo Creed's definitely little kidding him. He's treating him like little brother, and it's not super insulting, but it's a little demeaning. And at one point, like, it's pissing Paulie off. He goes like, his lungs punch him out. Rock kind of looks at him like, yeah, this guy is the greatest in the world. I don't know about that, but anyway, yeah. So there's the press conference, and he just went, yeah, he's just kidding around. Doesn't bother me none. And so anyway, he and Adrian, or she's walking him out, and they're having just this nice little moment out front. And she starts walking back inside, and he starts heading down the sidewalk, and this is just one of the most memorable things. It was when he turns around and goes, "Hey, you know how I said that stuff on TV didn't bother me?" She's like, "Yes." He goes, "It did," and that's all he says, and walks off. And I think that's just Apollo Creed giving it to him. I don't know about like final straw, because there's no like violent reaction, but that's something finally made him mad enough to tell someone else, because he always acts like water down my back over the bridge, whatever. And yeah, that's think about you're in the boxing world in Philly's toughest streets. That's a hell of an admission for in like the one of the biggest alpha male sports there is. Admitting to a girl that this hurt my feelings, which is basically saying, I said it didn't bother me. It did. So that was a pretty powerful little moment in the movie, just admitting that it bothered him. And then the guy that was screaming at him and telling him how lousy he was just a few minutes previously, here comes Mickey. Yeah, it's been on TV, and here comes Mickey. And the look on his face tells you that, oh boy, did I just fuck up earlier today? Because I think it was same day, and maybe this is later that night, was the feeling I got. And because Mickey's going to walk in there and ask him to let him be his manager. And it's one of and you can just see from the look on Rock's face, not happening at first. So let's see if I can get that one going. Because this is tough. This is the first time, and I think it was just a case of Rocky's had it, and he's done. He is done with it. And after all the shit names he's been called and Creed pissing him off, here comes the guy that was just screaming at him that morning about his wasted life. Not that he was wrong. Is coming there. Hey, I want to ride your coattails here. But knowing that he can probably help him, which, no, let's just listen to it first. So Mickey's heading out. Rocky's told him he doesn't need him. And he opens and closes the door. And Rocky sees him, because he thought he'd left, sees him there and goes back. He shut himself in the bathroom. Then he sees him, goes back in. So that's like double fuck you to Mickey. Mickey looks like he's about to cry. And I think now Rock's...
Yeah. 10 years ago, my house. I went back, I don't like my house. My house stinks. That's right, it stinks! I ain't asked no favor from you! Don't come around me! Well, you're crying. Well, I'm not crying, Mick! At least you have pride! I ain't had no pride, I ain't had enough. Legs are going, everything is going, no one's getting enough. Guy comes up offers me a fight. Big deal, wanna fight the fight? Yeah, I'll fight the big fight. I wouldn't want to fight that big fight, I was gonna have a nick. I'm gonna get that! I'm gonna get that! You wanna be big sided city? Do you? You wanna help me out? Huh? Do you want to take it back? Take that? Legs ain't working, nothing's working. They go on, fight the champ. Yeah, I'll fight him. My face kicked in. You come around here, you wanna move in here with me? Come on in, Frank's house. Real nice, come on in and move. It stinks.
There's that bathroom.
Wanna help me out? Well, help me out. Come on, help me out. I'm standing here.
Yeah, Rocky's just, everything he's been keeping in just comes out. Then you see him here, you can hear the music. So it's trotting after Mick. And I like that you don't hear a word that he says to him. You just see him talk to him, kind of puts his arm around him. Because, yeah, if we're honest, not obviously hindsight's 2020. They need each other. These guys need each other. Mickey wants one last shot as a manager. You know, we know the Dipper's not going anywhere. Yeah, Dipper's a climber and a contender. No, he's not. He's in your gym. He's not a climber or contender in a ratty gym across from a pet store in a crappy part of Philadelphia. But that's, yeah, and then the good guy in Rocky, it's like, I think he kind of talked himself into it, because he admits, he goes, I don't know what to do. Like he says, I'm going to get my face kicked in. He's going to give me, he's beating the shit out of the bathroom door and saying, I'm going to get this. Boom. It's like, he's going to kill me. So, and I think also the way he probably could tell how Mickey looked in there, and it's come back to him probably quicker than it would come to most, that this guy is in bad shape himself in life, and maybe they can help each other. So that to me, that's one where all of a sudden, yeah, here's Rocky screaming and yelling at everybody, and this is a guy who's just been low key no matter what insults are coming his way. So good stuff with Mick there. So then it's training time, and this is where he's not really in great shape. And the first thing he does is make, God, how many kids sick around America by coming in, puts about 6 raw eggs in a glass and chugs them. And I understand that's not that's a bit of a health risk, despite the quick and uncooked protein, I guess. But and then he goes out and runs, and he does his first run up the Philadelphia stairs, and he is just absolutely in pain. His lungs, everything's burning. His lungs are burning. and he goes heading down those stairs, and you wonder if he might stumble and fall. So yeah, but then he ends up finishing a workout, and he heads into the meat packing plant where good old Paulie works. And Paulie, we've already shown, how sensitive he is to, to women in his family, and I'm assuming it's not much better for women in general, but he strikes up a conversation with Rocky and wants to know if they're having sex, and, and he's just like, hey, don't talk dirty about your sister, and he's like, no, hey, you two stupid, or I don't know, he's not getting vulgar, but he is, and then Rocky, says something like, yeah, you know what, why don't you cool off, or it's cold in here, why don't you cool off and watch your mouth, and then Paulie blows out, you're damn right, it's cold in here, my job stinks, and it just does a Paulie screaming fit, complaining, and then punches those hanging sides of beef in there. He punches them a couple times, and then Rock's like, yeah, he gives him this look. He comes walking up, like giving him side eye. But he watched him. I think he just heard the sound when Paulie hit the beef, and he just reaches out and gives Paulie the little, 3-finger pushback on the chest there, and then tears into that for the first time. And Paulie's even kind of sitting back, going, Jesus Christ. He goes, you do that to Creed, they're gonna put us away for murder. See you tomorrow morning. And Rock's just kind of. Later, yeah. So I thought, like, what does Paulie have to do to get punched? And I remember as a kid, I thought Rocky was getting ready to give Paulie the big left, but Rocky never does. I think give Paulie. I think the only guy that ever lays Paulie out is Tommy Morrison, and doesn't exist Rocky 5. But yeah, that's that. So you got your meat punching, and then you have the site where Paulie gets yelled at, because then the next time Rocky comes by, here's TV trucks, and Paulie's told him about that, so they've come by and want to film Rocky punching the meat, and he's just super pissed at Paulie, but does it, and then it's wild because he's sitting there holding his fists up at the end. He's wearing his wraps, but here's just blood like going down both fists, like from just the meat, but it is just this look, and he's just sitting there like this, like just these bloody hands, and the reporter's looking a little like, my God, and that's when Duke tells Apollo he should be paying attention. Yeah, so there you are. Okay, so he's done that, and then you have, is it Christmas where they move in? Because I think all this takes place between like November like 20th and January 1st, and so yeah, Paulie gets mad at Adrian for something. And Rocky says, settle down, and he goes and gets a bat and just basically starts beating the hell out of the plate. I think, smashes the TVs, beating up the furniture, and Rocky acts like he's getting up. He goes, go ahead, I'll break your arms so they don't work no more. I'll break both your hands or something. And then I think Rocky finally gets a hold of him, because he's like threatening Adrian. And then he gets Paulie and like throws him down like he's about to lay into him, and then Paulie just starts blubbering. I can't work your meat no more or something, and it's so just Rocky always just ends up feeling sorry for Paulie. So after that though, you got a little more working out, and then it's time for, well, you know what? Might as well play a little of it. I can't think of a good reason not to. Hold on here just a moment. Okay, yeah, this will be close enough, but I think you know where we're going with this.
Sure. I figured some man gonna make some money from your name.
Oh yeah.
How's that?
Paulie putting the meat plant's name on the road. Yeah, Paulie knows advertising.
You can make money with my name, Mick, okay? I want to take a shot. You want to help me open this?
Oscar nominated for best original song. Didn't win. A Star Is Born beat out Gonna Fly Now for Best Original Song. You know what, Star Is Born? Suck it. That's brutal. I mean, just one of the most iconic pieces of music of all time. Just absolute crime. So anyway, Gonna Fly. We're ready to go. As you can imagine, in the categories, this is going to score really well in montage and music. But anyway, yeah, there's Rocky. Now he's flying. He's running up the stairs. And then they have the night before the fight, and two interesting moments. They have the one where he goes in I think they're fighting at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. So he goes in there, and they've got the huge like portrait paintings of Apollo and Rocky hanging from the rafters. And in it, Rocky, he's going to be wearing the white trunks with the red trim, but in the poster, he's got the red trunks with the white trim. And I believe it's in the trivia, but the thing is, that was an honest mistake. And this is another, Stallone sits down on the spot and writes a scene that ends up being a pretty good scene. And they said, that it was that literally the person painted it wrong. He was supposed to paint it in the white with the red trim. They got it delivered. They're on the tight budget. They don't really want to pay for a second giant poster. Or, I don't know. Anyway, so they have that whole scene where Miles Juergens sees Rocky, and they're looking up. Hey, Rocky, what? Big fight tomorrow. Shouldn't you be in bed? And how are you doing? And Rocky goes, well, the poster's wrong, Mr. Juergens. It says it says I'm wearing the white with the red trim, but this has me in the red with the white trim. And Juergens just looks at him with this kind of what I considered a condescending smile. Looking at him like you're going to get your ass whipped. So shit, who cares? Yeah, and he goes, it doesn't really matter, does it? Good night, Rocky. It walks off. And yeah, they said, I guess did that on the spot, and then he writes the scene, and they said that's the thing is people probably would have been talking about it. Not a big deal, but hey, they had the shorts wrong on the poster, and he just dealt with it by having Rocky notice it and mention it to the promoter. The promoter's like, who gives a shit? I just thought that's a nice that's a nice little scene to come up with just on the spot. That's one people remember. So then he heads home, and then Adrian, now I guess now Adrian's been living with him for about 5 days, and they're in the little flip down bed, and he's like, I can't win. And she's supportive. She's like, well, what are we gonna do? And then that's where he gives his speech where it's like, I just want to go in there, and if that final bell rings and I'm still standing, then I'm going to know for the first time in my life I wasn't just another bum from the neighborhood. Crazy thing about that scene, let me see, the night before the fight, okay, the producers just wanted to scrap it. I guess they were getting down to the end of filming, and they felt like we don't have time to do this scene, because you're going to do several cuts, and so they wanted to just scrap that scene, and Stallone's like, no, it's got to be in there. So they agreed to let him do one take. So that was their only take, and talk about nailed it. And I don't think it's winning Best Picture if you scrap that scene. I think that's one of the big scenes in the movie. That's one of his best lines in the movie. I'll know for the first, if I'm there when that bell rings, standing up. I just love that. I'll know for the first time I wasn't just another bum from the neighborhood. And you can tell that's what what is he like? I think supposed to be like 30 years old, because, he's got a ton of pro fights under him, and he fights as often as they'll let him. And you can tell he's just always thought of himself as another bum from the neighborhood. And he sees a way to not be that bum. And he was right. So great scene. Now then the fight happens, and there's just so much going on. You have Rocky go in. Rocky's got the Shamrock Meat Company logo on the back. Paulie, who knows advertising, they're like, well, what? They said something like, so what's the story? He goes, Mickey's like, what's with that shit on your back? And he goes, Paulie gets $200 and I get to keep the robe. And Mick looks around and goes, shrewd. Like, Mickey sticking it to Rock, and he's about to go fight Apollo Creed. I always loved that. So then here comes Apollo Creed, and he's coming in with the the red, white, and stars and stripes outfits, and red, white, and they're doing the George Washington cape and the crossing of the Delaware or whatever, and then goes to the Uncle Sam hat in the ring, and he's got the little flag, and I want you, Stallion, I want you, and then then Joe Frazier pops in the ring. And he's like, "You've been ducking me too long, Joe." It's like anytime. And they said they were really glad. They wanted to get like several heavyweight champs in there, like Stallone did. Just respected the boxers, wanted to get him in there. And the only one that showed up was Frazier, but great because Philadelphia boxer, absolutely perfect to get Joe in there. And there he is. It's like even Carl Weathers is kind of like Joe Frazier, giving it to him. And they said they wanted a little bit of that because famously Ali and Frazier had a falling out that lasted decades when Ali was ripping him apart leading up to their first fight because they had been friends, before that. I think it was Ali won the light heavyweight gold in '64. And then I think Frazier won the heavyweight gold in the Olympics in '68, and then Foreman won it in '72. So I think that, and then Teofilo Stevenson won it for about the next 20 years from Cuba. Darn lousy commie Cubans. The Olympics were fun that way. Russia and Cuba die in a hole. Okay, anyway, so then the fight starts, and you got the first round knockout that I said in a little write up I did for this for YouTube that hey, this is still the only movie I've seen people jump to their feet and cheer. In the theater I was watching it in, it was one of my cousins that took me, who was old, much older, but took me to that when we were living in Asheville, North Carolina, and he'd come up from Georgia and apparently volunteered to take me to Rocky. And I mean, I just was like, I want to see it again right now. I want to go right back in and watch it a second time, and which absolutely wasn't happening. So once and it was a pretty full theater. When I saw it, the word had been out for a few weeks that you want to see this movie. And when Rocky decks Apollo in the first round, I'm not going to say like, half or three-fourths, but I'm betting about 20 or 30 people were out of their chairs. And that's just who I could see in front of me. And I was in the middle somewhere. And yeah, people came out and were like, yeah, and cheering, and then kind of, oh shit, and sitting back down. That's how into this fight they were. So I won't forget that at all. And then comes the second great montage. I think it's called like the Going the Distance. And that covers, I think they show like a pretty full round 2, and Rocky about gets his head torn off at the end of that round. So he got a 10-8 first round on the knockdown, but from that point on, he's taken more of the beating than he's dishing out. But he's getting those body shots off, and then near the end of that montage sequence, like there's a few where they just come up. Rocky had, I think, the least amount of boxing of any of the Rocky movies by far. Because there's one point where they go 2, and then you just see her come up and she's dressed like the Statue of Liberty, and glittered silver all over, and all of a sudden you see going 5, 8, 9, or whatever. So they definitely speed through the middle rounds, and then into the 14th, Apollo knocks Rocky down. Let's see, yeah, knocks Rocky down, but Rocky just barely beats the count, and Carl Weathers just does the best job looking over and just goes like turns and sees him standing up and goes, like, what have I got to do? And he's like, that was the hardest punch he'd thrown in the fight, and then he got to his feet, and then he finishes the round and actually slips like a punch, a couple of punches, and just throws some of those murderous body shots. And so Rocky's going to his corner with one eye shut, and Apollo's going to his corner with cracked ribs. And you hear him, like I didn't hear him in the theater, but then when you watch it again, you hear those damn ribs crack, and yeah, and then comes the famous and disgusting, which I don't really think they allowed that in championship fights in '76, let alone today. But the whole company, Mick, and man, they made that look really good. That was some of the most realistic, like just pinpoint bloodletting I'd ever saw. Yeah, boy. And then 15th round, by the way. I I think the fix was in for Apollo because they're showing that round from like first bell to final bell, and that round lasted like not just under a minute, and Apollo was in trouble. So if you notice, like Rocky's like banging him off the ropes at the end, and then ding ding ding, and I'm like, I would think that Mickey'd be going around trying just to murder the the timer with his bare hands. But anyway, decision comes in, and the decision's even an afterthought. You've got to kind of listen for it because you're just listening to Rocky yell for Adrian. She loses the hat, gets in the ring, and then you have the old, Apollo, ain't gonna be no rematch, and Rocky don't want one, and then they forget that if you go to Rocky 2, they forget that on the way to the hospital because there they are rolling them in wheelchairs into the same hospital at the same time, and there's Apollo. Apollo's already forgotten that, and he's yelling at Rocky, and like, I want you again, chump, you were lucky. And he was like, hey, I thought you said you didn't want a rematch. Anytime, any place. So, yeah, don't want no rematch. I don't think even lasted an hour and a half. So anyway, yeah, there it is. There's the fight. Let's see what we got in the comments here. VP came in and said spotted TSD, shark in the water. Beetle B popped in. Sorry, I don't get it. I like but not liking. And peace outed. Well, thanks for dropping in for a bit. Pit Snipe Husker is in the house. He was late. Well, all right. We'll see about the fines for that. But anyway, and he said Frazier. Oh yeah, this is true. Gave Ollie a loan, gave him money while he was banned. Fought for him to get unbanned. Stand-up competitor. Yeah, Joe Frazier, stand-up guy. Well, and the thing is, it was Ollie did this to everybody, and in Ollie's mind, he's not driving Frazier nuts. He's promoting the fight, but he made it kind of personal. And what really did it was he sold. Here's the thing: was as far as complexion, Ollie was much lighter skinned. Frazier was much darker skinned, but Ollie sold himself as the black people's champion, and Frazier as the Uncle Tom, which and rightfully so. To Frazier, it was unforgivable. They made a video in the 80s of the 70s era of boxing called like Champions Forever, and they had Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, Ken Norton, and let's see, I already said Foreman, didn't I? Foreman, Frazier, Ali, Holmes, Norton. Yeah. And so, fun fact about Ken Norton, they originally wanted him to play Apollo. I think he'd tried a little acting, but the only problem was that Ken Norton was about 6'3", 230, and they were just afraid he'd look like a giant next to Stallone. He was about 5'7", 5'8", and so he was probably, I would say that Carl Weathers, my guess was he was probably about 210, 215, something like that. So he didn't even look big next to Carl Weathers. But yeah, so Ken Norton, though, considered, we'll get into the, actually I left that out of the casting, but yeah, considered for Apollo Creed. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, Ollie kind of, he did, and he's like, my son's middle name is Ollie. This guy's my favorite athlete, but like anybody else, he had his flaws, and I considered how he treated Frazier like one of the nastier things he did. He didn't mean it, but on the other hand, he was going for the throat a little, because people asked what would happen with Prime Tyson against Prime Ali, and it was in one of Ali's biographies, and at the end they asked that question because they wrote that biography about the time mid-90s, Tyson was big, and they said, okay, Prime Ali, Prime Tyson, and everybody's suggesting this, Tyson would be too strong, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, here's the thing, Ali's still a bigger guy than Tyson, and much taller, big reach advantage, quicker, but then, Tyson had the power, and when he was being trained by Customato, Kevin Rooney, etc., he was a very smart fighter in the ring. He didn't go for big one-punch knockouts. He would just combo your ass to death, and when you're getting hit by 2 or 3 of those that can just take your head off. Ugh. But Angelo Dundee, Ali's trainer, put it perfectly. He said, "You've got to be kidding me." He said Tyson used to get so pissed at opponents just for saying, I think I can take this guy, and I know how to beat him. And he would just take that to heart and just want to kill him. He goes, can you picture Mike Tyson having to deal with 2 or 3 months of Muhammad Ali going on TV, making fun of your list, making fun of the way you talk, relentless, being relentless about it. He said they would have rung that bell, and Tyson would have ran. Ali would have, hopped out of the way like a matador, and Tyson would have been like in the third row of the seats. He said he just would have made him beyond crazy, and I tend to believe that, because even under control, there, once they solved him, the higher rankings, he wasn't knocking as many of them out, like Bone Crusher Smith, Mitch Blood Green, guys like that were suddenly going the distance just by fighting a little more defensively and smarter, like say Michael Spinks did not. But I would have taken Muhammad Ali in that. I think he just would have worked him over mentally, and then if he could rope-a-dope Foreman, imagine rope-a-doping Tyson. Anyway, just an opinion. And the thing is, I'm not trying to insult Tyson at all. And Tyson even admits that, like, Muhammad Ali was his idol. He might have had a problem if he was fighting an older Ali, like worried about hurting him, because he said the reason he laid the beating with, like, I remember they got Larry Holmes' corpse in the ring with Tyson at one point, and Tyson just like beat the snot out of him so bad that Larry, I guess, was maybe drinking a little too much water, and then there was, after one round, he's like throwing up in the ring after body shots, and I just felt bad for him. But he said that, like, he didn't like the beating that Holmes had put on Ali in 1980, so he wanted to give it to Holmes. So anyway, what do we got? Oh, Carl Weathers delivered that thug me moment. Yeah, that look, that little you gotta be shitting me. Yeah. Well, they don't do. Here he goes. He says, they don't do 15. They don't do 15 rounds for anybody anymore. When they put the 12-round max in effect, that was for all weights. So yeah, I support that decision, man. That 12 rounds is plenty. I mean, my amateur, they just fight 3. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly, but Ali's People's Champion thing played to the fringes of the white audience. There was a fair perception of Vietnam War being absurd, and Ali capitalized on that audience. Yeah, and he did, but yeah, he definitely was not playing to he was not playing to the heartland. He was those people that was probably the last era of free use of the word uppity. Uppity and Ali came together in many sentences in the South and the heartland, et cetera, in the whiter parts of the country, just the way it was. Let's see, here we go. Tyson and Ali live in different places. Mikey says Ali would win, so I don't have to care. I get to revere. Yeah, they are both the greatest. That's, bingo. It is. It's 2 different eras, and yeah, it would have been fun. I'm sure we can go get a computer battle. Hey, that was the plot of Rocky Balboa. Could have a computer fight. Yeah, 15 would get kind of nasty. That was a different kind of in shape, though. Holy cow! If you ever want to watch and I think it won the Oscar for best documentary. There was the one, and it's one of these. There's so many. I always have trouble sorting them out. But it was the When We Were Kings. It was When We Were Kings, just fantastic, and it's all about the Zaire, the Ali Foreman fight, and just all the little things, like to get on. Ali had the crowd, famously, if you've seen it, chanting "Boumaye," the Zaire crowd, because he was like training and running in the slums of Zaire, and just hanging, whereas George Foreman never left his hotel. So he was out in the country, like, rallying support. And I think there was like 101,000 people there. The dictator wanted a full house, and they were George Foreman in this video. He freely contributed to this documentary, because he said it was like the lost Ali changed his life for the better. He was very much an angry, unhappy person before that fight, and kind of getting put in his place. He went down a dark road, came out of it, and then came out of it on the other side. Like the Foreman you got to know, in later years, just became a reverend and all that, and just a genuinely happy, very interviewable person. But yeah, he said, like, he goes, I hear them, they're going, Ali Boumaye, Ali Boumaye. And he said, he's asking, like, what does Boumaye mean? What are they yelling? And he goes, and then I found out they're yelling, Ali, kill him, Ali, kill him. And he's like, look, I wasn't scared of much, but 101,000 people chanting for your death. He goes, that was a little scary. Yeah, he's like, I admit it. What are you made me a little uneasy, on edge, something like that. Oh man. But anyway, we strayed away from Rocky. But I remember, was it when Stallone at the Oscars, I believe, went to present an award, and they snuck Ali out, and you just behind him, and you could see how much bigger Ali was than Frazier, and and here's Norton, who was bigger than Stallone, and here's Norton, who's probably a little bigger than Ali. God, he looks strong. And then Ali comes out, and he's giving them like the dirty look, and then they shadow box a little, but you can just see that's like we don't know if it was the happiest moment of Stallone's life, but I think it hopped right into the top 3. Just that look of joy on his face when he saw it was the champ. So let's see, where do we go now? I talked about getting robbed of the Oscar. Here's one I like to ask. Let's see. So Rocky was the first sports movie to win a Best Picture Oscar. Only 3 movies have ever won Best Picture Oscars. If you want to name them, we'll do the honor system. Name the other 2. One was fairly easy for me. I don't think it's quite as popular with everyone as it was with me. And then the other one, it's the newest one, but I'd forgotten about it because I'll be honest, I didn't really like it. Did we do this last? Yeah, Pitt says we did this last year. Well, we might have different people. I need my buzzer. Nominated, but didn't win. And Moneyball can be eliminated too, because we talked about that a couple weeks ago. It got nominated for Best Picture, but did not win. Tell you, I'll move along, and I was actually going to sit here waiting for somebody to yell out the answer. Let's see. I'll move along here, and then put your guesses in. If you Google, then you can just punish yourself. But go ahead. So let's see. Good comments, by the way, Pitt. Always happy to have you around. So let's go to. I know what I wanted to cover. Let's do the categories. We'll do the categories, then come back. So let me get my picks up. First category is comedy. There's some funny, just silly Rocky stuff. It's not really a comedy, so just for general laughs, I'm gonna go with the 2 stars. I'm gonna give it the Solich. And now here's one thing: there's unintentional comedy in a lot of the Rocky movies, but not in Rocky. There's not really stupid stuff going on where it started getting, the higher the Rocky number, the sillier the Rockies tended to get up until Rocky Balboa. Like Rocky V was just an absolute festival of unintentional comedy, and then Rocky Balboa got back to its roots. Got a champion you could like. The boxer, not Montel Griffin. It was another light heavy who I think turned heavyweight later in his career, but was really good in the role as the guy that rocked the current champ that like 50-something-year-old Rocky was fighting. So not much unintentional comedy in Rocky. Sports quality. That's a banger. That's an Osborne. And I actually read, one of the things I read about was the original boxing they were doing. They didn't like it. They said this looks too scripted. It looks too choreographed. And so one of the producer or the director told Rocky to go home and literally write out the fight, like just step by step. And that's he came back. They said he came back the next day with 32 pages of Rocky steps forward, fakes a hook, comes up top, just stuff like that, and then it ended up becoming what it became. You can kind of tell there's a couple scenes because mostly they shot Creed like waist up. He did not look too spry in some shots. Like he's when he's marching across the ring jamming Rocky, he looks like he's kind of stiff-legged, like his knees should be bent a little more. He should look a little springier, and he's just kind of like straight-legged walking him into the corner. But that's the ultimate nitpicking. It set a new standard for boxing fighting movies, and all it did was get better after that. But for its time, it was probably the best we'd ever seen. I can't think of anything that really came close to that. At least in boxing, you could make a case for like Bruce Lee in his movies. Yes, that would also be a 5 for the for the fighting realism. And then you have the music, and there's just no way. It's 5. You've got Gonna Fly Now, you got Going the Distance, you got Take Me Back. It's legendary, iconic music. The theme from Rocky is going to be around forever. So that's an easy Tom Osborne there. Adrenaline scenes, you see where we're going here. And here's the thing: Rocky is probably the slowest of the Rockies, and it is. This is a movie that deserved to win all its awards, and it did it because its attention to detail is unbelievable. And here's the thing: there's now where I'd kind of like to speed it up, but the first time I watched it, and then when I did a rewatch where I hadn't done it in a while, it's slow. But I'm not. Some people do say, yeah, the Rocky's kind of boring, and I'm like, well, the first few times for me it wasn't. I loved the just getting to know Philadelphia. I loved the neighborhood, everything that was up. His apartment was so thought out. Like everything was in the apartment for a reason. Just the fact it's like this. Most places, it's like when you're watching a movie, it's like even if it's like a cabin in the wilderness, I could live in that cabin because it's this amazing cabin and not some piece of shit that's going to fall apart in a year. And I did not want to live in Rocky's apartment. This is when I'm 13, and you're starting to think about, oh God, I'm getting within a few years. It seems a long way away, but I'm getting a few years where I'm going to be, living on my own. And that's one thing I look at. Ooh, I could live here. I did not want to live there. That looked like the worst bathroom. It was cramped. It just looked like it smelled. So I loved that about it. But adrenaline scenes, man, you got the Gonna Fly Now, and then you've got the fight, and that's probably the last 25, 30 minutes of the movie, basically. So, yeah, it's that's another one that was a tone setter for adrenaline scenes. That I really hadn't seen a sports movie before that just made me that kind of crazy. I love the Bad News Bears, and they had a cool game at the end, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, where's my running shoes, man? I'm running. Let's run. Oh, okay, half a mile. That hurts. I'm going back home now. But I wanted to do it when I heard the Gonna Fly Now. So it gets the 5 stars. See, now here's where I'll hit it a little is just over time. I'm going to drop the rewatchability down to a 3, down to a bow, because it is probably the last Rocky that you want to throw on because something funny or exciting or whatever is about to happen. Like Rocky 4 is just I think the original Rocky 4, he described that as just a sprint to the fight. There was just no setting up anything. He's in such a hurry to get to that fight. He somehow manages to sign that fight without his wife knowing, which is one of the most insane parts of Rocky 4. But yeah, the whole thing is basically you just see a bunch of headlines in newspapers, and we're in a plane, and survivors landing us in Russia. It happens in like 3 minutes. It feels like. Well, first he had to go drive the Maserati or Lamborghini or whatever it was all over town, downshifting 38 times to whatever that song was. So yeah, it's not as rewatchable, and I don't mind saying that. It's a slow watch. And then there's obviously no Oscar reboot because let's kind of go from the top to the bottom. I already lodged my complaint about A Star Is Born. I imagine people just hissing when Gonna Fly Now didn't get it, you assholes. Then next, let's see, it was nominated for Best Sound. All the President's Men won. And then it won for Best Editing. I'd say that's a well-deserved one. So it got two. Let's see. And then original score. This one, original screenplay, man. That was another tough one. Network won, and there's people that like to argue that Network was the better movie, and All the President's Men. And it's nuts that Rocky won, and I'm like, okay, people remember All the President's Men. People kind of remember Network, but I think you can put the discussions of the other 4 nominees in 40 years together, and in a month Rocky gets talked about more. So Rocky stuck with us. So anyway, it actually two nods for Best Supporting Actor. So what do we got here? 3, 7, 8. Yeah, so 9 nominees, 3 wins. Both Burgess Meredith and now I want to say Burt Ward. It wasn't Burt Ward. Paulie. This getting old just sucks. I can't even remember the actor's name for Paulie right now. Oh, we got it down here. Hold on. Because it turns out Burt Young. Burt Ward. I've got Batman on my head now. Burt Young was nominated, and Jason Robards won for All the President's Men. So and then Best Actor, Stallone's nominated. Peter Finch wins for Network. And then Avildsen wins Best Director. John Avildsen wins Best Director, and Rocky wins Best Movie. So yeah, so it got 9 nominations, and 3 wins. So nice showing. And when you walk away with the actor and director, you're usually puffing the chest out. So let's see, we've got some more comments up here, and then we can start winding down into trivia, which if I did like I always do, I probably covered a bunch of it as we went through it. Let's see. No guesses. Okay, the other two sports movies that won Best Movie: Chariots of Fire in 1982, about the English track stars in like 1924. I loved it. I was running track, but I loved it. It was an interesting, really funny movie. I thought it deserved its Oscar since it was a sports movie. Some people thought it didn't. They can go kick rocks. And then not Cinderella Man. Oh God, I forget everything about this movie. It's the one with Hilary Swank as the female boxer, and I didn't like it. I like Hilary Swank. I like Clint Eastwood. I love Morgan Freeman. I just didn't like the movie. I don't know what it was, but yep, that was it. That was it for the Oscar question. So, there you go. Pitt said the Baseball Thunder movie. Oh no, not The Natural. I don't think that got nominated. Oh, that was a slow movie, very slow. The Track on the Beach movie. That's a dinger. That's correct. Ding 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 ding. And then Neil, all hail to Frank. Let's see. Stallone talking about the new guy taking a real. Oh, that was Michael B. Jordan. That was Michael B. Jordan in Creed, and his opponent in Creed. I don't know if a lot of people caught that, and I think he came back and then was in Creed 2, and gets beaten. Maybe he gets beaten Creed 2, or no, maybe it's Creed the beginning of Creed 3 or something, and that's his last fight, getting him after he gets out of jail. Well, anyway, the actor was an actual light heavyweight champion at one point, so from England. So yeah, so there's one fight where. And it's on the screen, and Michael B. Jordan, I heard him interviewed. He was the one telling the stories. He goes, yes, Stallone tells. He goes, it's just the miss isn't looking good, and it's one where he's supposed to get flattened. And so he goes, Stallone came and says, yeah, you're gonna have to take the shot here. And he goes, huh? And it is the one where he gets smoked, and his eyes are rolling in his head, and they have him in slow motion falling down. And he says he doesn't remember. He says he just remembers it coming, and then remembers waking up. He got knocked out. But yeah, got to take the shot. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan was hilarious telling that story. Frank Solich would beat the tan off of Bruce Lee. I don't know. Sometimes Frankie looks a little sprayed on there. I got to be honest. I would bet all my money and and everybody else is on old Bruce Lee there. Yeah, maybe we can change this to Andy and Pitt do 2 stuff could be a better today interpretation. I don't know. We'll see. You were late, man. I can't. You got to be on time. So no. Let, let's start some quick-worthy shit. Minnie wants your show, Andy. She's a succubus. How do we combat that? Huh? I don't know. The only thing is, Minnie's already on 2 nights. I can't see her wanting to tack on a 3rd. But oh well. Let's see. Yeah, where's TSD? He might have popped in. Yeah, I'm probably not going to put the Hillary Swank comment up, Pitt. But thanks for giving us Fred Sacco vibes. Tell you what, let's get to the comments. Or not comments. I just did that. Let's get to the trivia. Okay, so I talked about him taking less money. All this, told the Butkus story. So here's a wild one, and I knew this then because I went and looked it up after I saw the movie because I was like, there's no way. Cuff and Link, along with Pedro Lovell as Spider Rico, Cuff and Link actually reprised their roles as Cuff and Link. They too were only in it twice. First in Rocky in 1976, and then again in Rocky Balboa in 2006, and I believe that was the other one. That was the last one with Pedro Lovell as well. So yeah, Cuff and Link, they're huge, and turtles live a long ass time, and so they are big ass turtles in Rocky Balboa. But yeah, Cuff and Link. So the running scenes that look so realistic, that's because they just did them. I think Avildsen described it as guerrilla style. They didn't ask for permits. They just went out and shot. And so they're just driving around in a truck and filming Stallone running, and said he just saw that moored ship over there by the shipyard that he has a long run by, and just saw that ship. Looks good. Let's do it. Let's shoot it. And then running up the alley where you got the guys out selling food or adult, all that up and down the street. And he was running, said all their reactions are genuine. They didn't know what the hell was going on. And then you see near the end, the guy throws him an orange, yells, "Hey!" Stallone turns around, catches the orange, says thanks, and said that just happened. That wasn't planned at all. And dude just thought, I guess he looked hungry. Here, take an orange, dude. Philly got some nice people. They're not all battery throwing maniacs. How about that? Let's see. Yeah, I did get a lot of this out of the way. Oh, and Rocky's scene that I played where he's letting Mickey have it. What about my prime Mick? Completely improv by Stallone. Just did it off the cuff. I think sometimes that stuff may not always work out the way you want it to. Who cares? You can, let them give it a shot and then have another take. The famously bad scene was from Jaws when they were doing the USS Indianapolis story by Robert Shaw thing, and he was, he's drinking and he's supposed to be drunk. So apparently one time for realism, he thought he'd get super drunk and was just a slurring mess, and they couldn't use any of it. So they're like, okay, we tried it your way now. Here's some fake whiskey, Robert Shaw. Settle down. Let's see. So, but yeah, that was that was improv by Stallone. Okay, here's another, remember the part where they said Carl Weathers liked the role but was reluctant to do it because he just didn't know who the hell Stallone was. So apparently here they are, seeing how he'd be as a boxer with Stallone, and he popped Stallone one pretty good in the chin, and Stallone was like, okay, hey, just take it easy, don't try to take my head off. And Weathers was like, well, maybe this will work better if we get a real actor in here, not just some fill-in guy. And Hamilton had to tell him, it's like, yeah, that's your co-star there. That's the star. That's Sylvester Stallone. And what they said, Weathers took a look at him and goes, well, maybe he'll get better. And apparently Stallone thought that was hilarious, and then was at that point hired him on the spot. It's like, you got to do it. The Steadicam, the inventor of the Steadicam, gave it its first run on Rocky. He had invented the Steadicam, showed it off to the producers and Avildsen, and they liked it, so they hired him. And so what he's got is, I'm not sure. I didn't dig deep enough to find out what made it the Steadicam. I have a feeling it's one of the first ones, kind of like your iPhone will do now, where you can be bouncing around a little, and it'll keep the shot steady. And because what they did was they said the first time he used it to prove its worth was he'd done it, on wheels and all this other stuff, but he wanted to do it so he did it where he ran up the stairs at the Philadelphia Art Museum shooting his girlfriend, and then got Rocky, and the next time he did it was running up the stairs shooting Stallone as he ran up the stairs. And he did it twice for I guess the one where the first one he takes where he's just like in complete pain, and then the last one where he's dancing at the top and they're gonna fly now. They said they did those like about, I think, 45 minutes apart. Shot those two scenes. So that's kind of wild. They waited for like the sun to, I think, or maybe it was like beginning of day, end of day. That makes more sense. They wanted one with the sun coming up, and I think the other one with it going down or something like that. Burt Young, he was doing one of the scenes where he's walking around with Rocky, and he's supposed to be a little stumbling drunk, so he's trying to act drunk, and apparently they're just, like I said, they're just out there shooting. They're not really clearing anybody off, and a real drunk guy stumbled into the scene, a real bum, and just told him, are you trying to act drunk because you're doing a terrible job of it? And then the drunk guy proceeded to give Burt Young lessons on how to be a better looking drunk or look better at being drunk, which I just think is amazing. Okay, for those who don't know, that this story's been out for years, but Stallone said he got the inspiration for it watching like this dock worker named Chuck Wepner fight Muhammad Ali, and he didn't go the distance. Ali, like he just wouldn't go down, was this thing. Like Ali was just beating the living shit out of him. And finally he was, with like 19 seconds to go, Ali's just pounding him. He's bleeding like crazy, and the ref jumped in and stopped it. And so that's the story. I think later on Wepner tried to sue him, like he wanted a piece of the movie, saying that since you watched my fight and turned it into a movie, then I kind of came up with the idea too. It's like, no, that's Chuck Wepner, God bless you, and maybe maybe a nice little check at the time. It would have been nice, but Chuck, that's not how it works. It's like, because you saw me. Oh, brother. Let's see. This movie. Now here's the thing. Then is back then they didn't start the 10 count until, at least this is what I read. If this is incorrect, tell me. But they didn't start the 10 count until the other fighter hit his corner, and because they were supposed to scamper over there quick. Yeah, now for years it's be like it starts the minute you hit the canvas, and there's a counter at ringside. Ref gets the guy to his corner and then checks that guy and he'll start in at like 4 or 5, whatever. But at this time, what happens is when Rocky should have won the fight in the first round. When he knocked Creed silly, he keeps running in there like trying to jump on him. I guess he wants to go down to one knee again, like the Spider Rico fight. And he's running around and trying to get at him, and it takes about a 9-10 count for the ref to get Rocky the hell away from Creed into the corner, and then he takes him to an 8 count. So Creed's literally gets counted to 18. So it's like, yeah, if Rocky just would have gone to his corner, which I think 60, 70 fights in, you'd know this, he probably wins the fight. Rocky's over. Rocky's the champ right away. We're not going to be able to have to do another movie where he gets the belt, Rocky 2. So anyway, yeah, that should have won the fight. Now here's one. This one I never would have known. Now it got nominated for, like I said, original screenplay, and Stallone was the only writer on that. They did say there were some funny endings to it. The original ending had Rocky throwing the fight because he decided the boxing world disgusted him. So at the end he throws the fight and gets booed, walks away. And so that they obviously didn't go with that. I guess another ending had the fans kind of storming the ring, and then just like body like carrying them or passing them like all around the crowd together, like greatest fight of all time. So they grab both fighters and just start passing them around. Which that'd be interesting to see some scrubs come up and try and get a couple of heavyweights in the air. I bet after the first couple punches were thrown, that's not happening. But they did like 9. I think they said it got about 9 rewrites when all was said and done. He and Avildsen fought about a lot of stuff, And they said he would fight with Avildsen a lot. Rocky would as the star and the writer. You know, kind of ballsy. First movie that you're getting to make, and yeah, you're not afraid to back down from your director. They said when push came to shove, he almost always went with whatever Avildsen wanted, since he had all the experience, and Stallone didn't really have any yet. It was shot in 28 days and under budget. Like, it was budgeted for $1 million, came in at 960. Don't hear that too often in the old film business, do you? But anyway, original screenplay. I started moving on. Original screenplay. Only 2 men ever were the sole writers of a screenplay nominated for a Best Screenplay Oscar, and that was Stallone for Rocky and Charlie Chaplin for The Great Dictator. So there's some nice company to keep. Frank Stallone played 3 roles in the movie. he was, the take me back, doo guy. He was the bell ringer in the big fight at the end, like they show him ringing the bell. That was also Frank. And my very favorite, he was the bum from the dark. When Stallone's taking Adrian back to his apartment for the first time, and here comes this guy stumbling out of a dark alley. And Rocky goes, "Oh, hey, yo, it's the bum from the dark. Get a job, you bum." But yeah, so yeah. Do guy, bell ringer guy, and bum from the dark. Frank Stallone, triple threat. Burt Young, he's always saying, "I don't sweat you." In the later film, he didn't sweat Creed. No reason for Burt Young to sweat anybody. He was a boxer. He joined the Marines, learned how to box, and had a career amateur record of 32-2. And then went 17-0 as a pro. They say some people dispute that because it's so hard to, with guys that aren't fighting at the top level or anything, it's kind of hard to verify a lot of it. But he claimed to be 17-0. It's an odd number to pluck if you're going to make up something. But he famously, and said it was the biggest thrill of his life, he did get to box like an exhibition match with Muhammad Ali when when both of them were younger. If you watch, it's like one of the things where it's a 70s movie. Empty seats. You can see empty seats, and they use a lot of like random stock footage from the Spectrum. But that's a lot grainier than the movie footage, so that kind of sticks out. But hey, they worked with what they had in 1976. I think I told you about Screw You, Creepo, and that's it. That's our trivia. And like I said, that could have been so much more. There's a ton out there, and I actually just stopped looking at one point so I can be surprised by other stuff down the road. So that ends Rocky. Let's see what's been going on in the comments here. Oh, let's see. Stallone. TSD. Stallone still has the turtles. Are they still alive now? Okay. The last time I checked in on them was like I said, 2006, 7, or 8, whenever Balboa came out. But yeah. The sad thing is Butkus has to be long gone. Poor Butkus. He was the sweetest boy. What's this? Says Stallone, Pitt, and Greg. I assume you're talking about our Greg from Thursday night. I'll share a birthday. Oh God. Burt Young, everybody's drunk ass uncle. Maybe I'll like do a repeat or repost the Rocky IV updated article I had where I just point out all of Paulie's many flaws. It's like let's see, domestic abuser, pretty much avowed racist. I don't like these people. Well, maybe they don't like you either. What'd I ever do to them? I talked about this early on. What he did was he found another family to take him. At that point, he said they were living out of his car. In the interview they did before the director's cut of Rocky IV, he joked that he goes, it was getting tough to buy food. And I figured sooner or later one of us was going to eat the other, and my money would have been on the dog, so I had to do something. But yeah, once he got paid for the script, the family that had been watching him gave him back, and then he put him in the movie, and all was happy in Stallone world with Butkus. Let's see. Yep, we talked about this one earlier too. He didn't shop it all over town so much as Winkler and Chartoff He had. This is what I said earlier. He had auditioned for another movie, an earlier movie they were producing, didn't get it, but told him his idea for Rocky, and they were intrigued and said, write a script and let us take a look. And I don't think the money wasn't the issue, because he ended up staying with them. So they offered him $360,000 for the script, which is crazy money. It'd be like would have been like $1.6 million back in like 2018, like the last time I looked. And so, but he said no. He said no, and he was flat broke, and he said no to it because I want to star in it. So that's when they finally went back, to their money, to their studio, and were like, well, he insists on starring, and he's not selling the script otherwise. And they believed in the script enough to where they fought for it. And so they ended up saying fine, but the $2 million budget is now $1 million. They have the budget since there wasn't going to be a big name star. Yeah, the stars were crazy, and one of them was Nick Nolte, which I said of the five, I think it was Burt Reynolds, Redford, Ryan O'Neal, God Almighty, and James Caan. And Nolte, I said, was the only one I could see giving like a proper Rocky type performance. That would have interested me. But no, then they met his demands. Cut the price of the script since they didn't pay as much for the script since there wasn't going to be a big star attached, and I think it all worked out. Let's see, Frank Stallone. What does he have here? Frank Stallone, one of the best harmonic writers ever. Yeah. You cannot say that Frank Stallone had a bad voice. I questioned earlier that maybe it was a tad bit of fantasy that a bunch of drunks in a dangerous part of Philly are going to sing in perfect harmony. Yeah, Butkus was a good boy. Pit Snipe, I agree. And hold on to your art, people. That's the lesson. Yeah, there's ones that that do go all in on themselves, but then the movie tanks. You just don't hear those stories. You maybe hear the bounce back story. One of the biggest stories I heard was reading the Arnold Schwarzenegger story, because he literally went all in on Total Recall. He was rich at the time, and he decided to be like pretty much the sole investor. At least he pushed all his chips into the movie and hit huge. And so then that turned him into probably what made him a guy worth nine figures is because Total Recall cleaned up. So that was always interesting to me. This is one that's interesting. Later Stallone seems like a good guy. 80s Stallone, I'm just going to say, without making a direct accusation, that 80s stuff was very cocaine induced. I think that even rolled into the 90s pretty good. And when I see the robot in Rocky IV, which was eliminated in the director's cut, a lot of the silliness went out of the director's cut. I would just say that, and then like stories I heard about him on Cobra when he was dating Nielsen, and he was just the biggest ass. And he in interviews he's admitted it. He's just like, yeah, I wasn't a good guy then. And I think older Stallone is kind of just appreciating the life he has, and he does seem to be a mellower guy than 80s, 90s Stallone. Like, hey, what do you know? A guy who wasn't worth anything in '77. By 87 was just irritating as hell. Crazy. I'd like to think if I got a chunk of money now, I'd mold enough that I wouldn't make it a big deal. But I don't know that throwing that kind of money at me and when I was 22 would have been such a good idea. Well, anyway, that's what we got for tonight. I'm going to go ahead since I'm starting football next week. We'll skip the football talk tonight, and gosh, I said and off for about the 45th time as usual. I just need to say thanks to everybody for another big night. Got some more people to show up for Rocky. That makes me very happy. This is one of those movies where I'm always going to at least zoom through a rewatch and just kind of hit the scenes I want to fixate on. This is one of those that comes pretty close to. I think I could do it cold. I could almost just, at least just have like my blank outline that I work with here, and I think I could work with that and just kind of fill in the blanks and do a decent job. Pitt, I got to go, man. We're at 209. Next week, it's nothing but football. So anything I was going to tell you tonight, I'll tell you next week. I'll give you this. Terry Braden came out again was this Friday? No, maybe this was just yesterday. This was Monday. And just the funniest line of the night, and some people posted it, that it was pretty funny because he was the assistant D-line coach in Kansas City. And they asked him, so going back to KC, where are you heading? And he goes, I'm a Gates man, and I'm telling you what, only the meat, no sauce. I love the Gates meat. And then people got a chuckle out of that. You always enjoy asking a question that just kind of brightens them up, makes them smile. I did an article. If you get it back, check back a few days, and we had the pleasure of Mike Eckler's company again, and that's never not fun. His quotes, and I might have said this last week, where he called the punt returners, said they got to be like a fart in a skillet, and then said kickoff return is like the wreck, the crash in Days of Thunder. He said you got to do like Tom Cruise and just put the hammer down and drive through the smoke. That's a kickoff returner, baby. So, but we'll talk about some of that. I dropped an article today on Matt Rule, and I'm saying, like I said basically in the article here, he thinks we're going to win, and he's convincing me we're going to win big this year, or something big's going to happen. And it's not because of what he's saying, as so much what he's doing, how he's carrying himself, and he's making me believe just from the confidence. Let's just say the confidence he's exuding, and I broke into that and had some of his quotes and did that. So, yep, we'll get this going again next summer. I ended up like getting a later start this summer, and I'm not sure why, because I don't know. I had the time. I usually just I want to take like a couple weeks off after softball ends, and then dive in. So, yeah, we'll be back next year. Plenty of good movies. Next year, one thing I still want to try is if I can get Sam Greisel in here. And if you want a till next summer homework assignment, here you go. Rezball on Netflix. REZ Ball on Netflix, based on a true story of a reservation high school team that won the New Mexico State Championship. Sam Greisel, former point guard for Nebraska, like 6'7", 6'8" point guard. Boy, does he look like the baddest ass in this movie too. They play like a Catholic, mostly white school, and he is like the evil white kid on the team. But the thing is, he's not just like dumb and mean evil. He's actually kind of crafty, and it's kind of fun to see an ex-Nebraska player out there raining threes and windmilling dunks, playing a high school player. That wasn't fun. But I'm trying to reach out to see if I can get him, if not to be in it, like do a quick interview with him before, to see if maybe we can get him to drop in and just give his thoughts. Because I was only aware it was made because about 2 months after he graduated, I saw he had tweeted out that he'd done this movie. And it starred, like, one of the like lower end stars in there is Amber Midthunder, who, if you ever watched Prey, the like 1700s Predator goes after the natives on the northern plains type movie, and she was the star of that. She's in Rezball, and like kind of a light role. I'm almost wondering if she just like jumped in for a favor to somebody. But really good movie. I mean, really. It's emotional. It's funny. I had just when I saw it, I was kind of like, well, I wonder if it's low budget. And then I saw LeBron James was one of the producers, and so I get the feeling his was the kind of money that probably started the ball rolling to get it financed. And it's very well done, very high quality production, film, all that. Acting's top notch, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, if you want to watch something that we might see next year, give Rezball a shot. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It does tackle some tough subjects too. There's some definite heartbreak and loss in this movie, but it's not just cry from beginning to end or anything like that. Because they just do a really good job. I won't say anything more. Watch it. if you want to bring it up during the football show, we can talk a little about that. Let's see. Let me check a few of these. So I've looked at them all. Oh yeah, love you right back, Pitt. Thank you. This was fun. I knew I was going to be this was a long day. I did a lot of writing today and then was steamrolling kind of through the research, but I was just still so excited to do Rocky. Rocky, I'll tell you that. But I am going to, I'm definitely going to go find this, and I'm going to take a screenshot and send it to her. That we'll get that. Yeah, res ball. There you go. Just a space between res and ball, but that's the spelling. That's exactly it. Yes, I did finally do the Bastards, and yeah, let me thank you for that as the last show of the movie show. That was worth watching. I told you my only thing was that means I like the story. Is why wasn't it longer? Why didn't they go deeper? They did wacky things that I know they left out because they didn't show. They talked about how wacky they were, but didn't show a lot of it. Like the one guy that started the sweep with the broom, and they called him by both his names. I loved that stuff. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just learning more about the Russell family. Kurt Russell's always been one of my favorite dudes. I mean, but when I think my two favorite Kurt Russell movies, I think Big Trouble in Little China and Miracle. Because I actually had met Herb Brooks a couple of times, and it's like he became Herb Brooks in Miracle. Had everything down, including the steely Herb Brooks gaze. Like, you meet Herb Brooks in a non-competitive situation, genuinely nice guy. That's why when they did Miracle and showed what an evil dick he did just to make everybody hate him so they wouldn't have time to hate each other, you realize that's an act, and even the Minnesota players were like, we've never seen him like this. We like Herb. And so getting to meet Herb was something. Kurt Russell was Herb in that movie. And I literally, when we get Miracle done again, that was the time where I showed YouTube clips that I shouldn't have been showing, and it cut us off. We'll definitely wheel around to that again someday, and we'll talk more about Herb Brooks. But yeah, that steely gaze, I just remember because I saw him give it to somebody once, not me, and I was like, there it is. There's the guy. There's the Herb that the kids dealt with. So, but yeah, when you meet him and see how nice he is, you're like, yo, he was definitely acting when he convinced those guys that he was pissed off. But nope, I already did several minutes on Miracle. Guys, thank you. Love you. Hopefully we see you next week talking some football on the Triple H, the Husker Happy Hour. And other than that, I really had fun. I tried to get back. I went back to one old movie. I think I started off with a bunch of 80s movies, and I'm like, all right, let's at least get in the 2000s here for people. But yeah, we'll roll back to this again next summer. And other than that, y'all have a great rest of the week, great weekend. Anybody that's heading down to Cincinnati, I'm still waiting to hear whether or not I get my credentials yet. But I will be in the Husker press box again this year. Got confirmed on those. Now we're just waiting to hear from Arrowhead. Nobody's really sure what they're doing. So I hope to be there. Arrowhead personnel or decision makers, if you're watching, I love you. I know you're probably not. But anyway, go Big Red. See you guys soon. You'll see me soon. I'll try and get Miley in here occasionally so Pit Snipe can just dig his own grave there. And other than that, we'll see you guys. Take care. Safe travels if you're traveling, and have a great week.